Thanks for saving me. ISL, Chapter 6. The first half of the gala is something of a blur to Izuku. There are a lot of important, impeccably dressed people that keep stopping Todoroki to talk, even if he doesn't always seem like he wants to. Fortunately, they also keep bumping into a lot of interesting heroes that Todoroki knows, for Izuku to ogle disbelievingly. He's never dreamed he would get to be in a room with this many pros at the same time. Todoroki continues to make sure Izuku is included in the conversations, despite how surprised most people seem to be meeting some young nameless college kid at such a prestigious event. They warm up to him once they realize he's the one who saved all the children in the university villain encounter. He's not expecting so many people to recognize him, but more than just a few take the time to commend Izuku for what happened that day, until he's fairly overwhelmed by praise from all the heroes he's admired and looked up to for so long. Despite his awkwardness, Izuku finds every conversation immensely interesting, and he's content to listen in and file away as much information as he can. Todoroki, on the other hand, looks more and more fatigued after each encounter. "Do you want me to get you any more food?" Izuku asks him after what seems to be a particularly draining conversation with a prominent politician. "Or a drink, maybe?" "I could use several drinks," Todoroki mutters, then shakes his head when Izuku laughs. "No, I'm fine, sorry. This must be so damn boring for you. I swear I didn't invite you just for you to get stuck listening to a bunch of people drone on and on." "It's not boring, actually," Izuku reassures him. "Besides, I know it's all stuff you're obligated to do or something." "The perks of being a hero," Todoroki says. "Some of my friends are great at these events, but I'm..." Izuku nudges him in the side with his elbow. "I think you're doing great, too." Todoroki looks surprised, so Izuku just smiles at him. He has been doing pretty great. A lot of the conversations with the political and government elite are thinly veiled requests for his public support in various areas. Navigating that minefield is tricky, but Todoroki and his resting blank face pull it off admirably. "The awards should be about to start soon," Todoroki says. Actually, there is someone I wanted to introduce you to before they do." "Me?" Izuku asks, following him through the crowd to one of the tables closest to the stage. There are several very high-ranking pros seated at it, though one man in particular sits with his back towards them, his face not yet visible. It's a thin back, almost skeletal, though the figure in the dark blue suit is very tall. The hair is on the long side, a bit scraggly, going gray, though it's hard to tell from that startling shade of yellow blonde. "Todoroki!" Izuku starts to whisper, a strange breathless panic overtaking him, but Todoroki is already saying very respectfully, "Sensei." The man turns, and Izuku stops breathing entirely. "Todoroki, my boy!" "Yagito Shinori says," his shadowed eyes crinkling up at the corners in happiness. "You look remarkably well." "I am," Todoroki agrees. He bows to the man sitting next to Yagi. "Aizawa-sensei." "Don't mind me," Todoroki's other former teacher says, waving a hand tiredly. He looks like he means it. Izuku has never seen all that many pictures or videos of the reclusive underground hero, but even in a sharp black suit with his long hair pulled back, Aizawa appears remarkably exhausted. "I wanted to introduce you," Todoroki says with a nod at Izuku. Izuku barely notices that this is his cue. Internally, he is shrieking! This is like meeting Todoroki's parents, not worse! Because Endeavor may be terrifying, but this is all mine! All mine! Izuku has one chance. One! To make a meaningful first impression, and he wasn't even expecting to speak to the man tonight. He wishes Todoroki had warned him so he could mentally prepare, but maybe that would have been a disaster too, given his tendency to overthink things. What does he say? What does he say? What does he say? "Hello," he says, hearing the words come out of his mouth without actually comprehending them. "I'm Todoroki's date." Time seems too slow to a near standstill. Dimly, Izuku is still aware of things occurring. Todoroki at the periphery of his vision turning towards him, Yagi's eyebrows raising, Aizawa expressionlessly taking another sip of his drink. It all seems meaningless, just like his existence now. His words are pinging about in his clearly empty skull over and over. "It's not a date, Mom. How many times do I have to tell you we're not going on a date?" "Just..." he wheezes. "Can I go? Didn't date like a social engagement. Todoroki didn't. I mean, we're not. I don't know why I said that. Probably because I'm so freaking out right now, but I'm just his guest. This is just a totally normal gala, and I'm just here to be Todoroki's friend. I'm a guest, and I am so sorry. Does anyone want another drink? Some of those shrimp cocktail things? I can... It's okay, Midoriya, Todoroki says, and Izuku snaps his mouth shut. Yagi and Aizawa are still staring at him. So, Aizawa says at length, he does have a name besides Todoroki's date, then. Izuku stares numbly into space at a point somewhere above Aizawa's ear, and even though his name is no longer worth mentioning, mumbles, Yes, it's... Midoriya Izuku, Yagi says kindly. Izuku floundered soundlessly like a fish left out of water for far too long. All Might said his full name. All Might knows his name! Yes! Yagi's eyes crinkle again. His face is honestly kind of terrifying, Izuku has to admit, but also somehow very kind. He hasn't seen much of All Might up close after his decline years ago. After the horrible fight with All For One, a villain most of the rest of the world hadn't even realized existed until that night. Maybe the heroes had wanted to keep All Might's memory, his legacy, as close to intact as they could. Izuku feels a very pronounced sadness over this. Not that Yagi has waned in the way that he has, because all people do, even heroes. But standing in front of him now, Izuku doesn't feel the slightest bit different about the man he's wanted to be like all his life. Even got around the edges, All Might's smile is real. I was hoping I'd see you here tonight, Yagi says. Me? Izuku asks. He knows All Might doesn't lie, but how is he supposed to believe that? But Yagi laughs. Of course! Imagine my surprise when I heard you say I was your favorite hero. I felt very well represented. You saw that interview? Izuku gasps. The thought is vaguely horrifying. He'd been so himself in it. I was very curious about you, I'll admit, Yagi says. Shouto was so taken with you that I had to... Sensei! Todoroki hurriedly interrupts, and Yagi's smile widens as Izuku swivels his head back and forth between them. Sorry, Yagi says. Just an old man rambling. Mostly what I wanted to tell you tonight is thank you. Izuku shakes his head, shocked. For what? For putting yourself in danger to save others, Yagi says, including the life of one of my former students. But that was... Izuku swallows. I was just in the right place at the right time. That's all it ever is for the most part, Yagi says. No, it's really thanks to you, and Shouto too, and other real heroes. Izuku clasps his hands together nervously. He doesn't know how to accept this thanks from someone who has done so much when Izuku has done so little. Yagi's brow furrows, and Izuku wonders if he said something wrong. I don't understand, the man says. I wasn't there that day. You were alone when you did what you did. I know, but I was able to do it because of everything I've learned about you. Because of you, Izuku explains. That's why I admire you so much. You inspire people to do that kind of thing, even someone like me. My boy, that's not how it works. If it hadn't been for you, Midoriya, Yagi says, his voice suddenly more forceful, enough that Izuku can't help but listen. Believe me when I tell you, even if you'd never heard of me, you would still have found a way to do what you did. Izuku worries the bottom of his suit jacket will be irreversibly crumpled with how hard he's clutching it. He can't. He's always believed in All Might all his life, so why is this time so difficult? How do you know that? No one, not even I, could ever make someone else a hero, Yagi says with complete certainty. The only way for many of us to become one is through our own actions. Speechless, Izuku stares at him. His eyes feel hot and go blurry a moment later. All Might just called him a hero! The lights dim, and an announcement for people to begin to take their seats for the awards portion of the evening is made. Thanks, Sensei, Todoroki says. He puts a warm hand across Izuku's back again, as much to steady him as to get him moving. Izuku swipes at his eyes and bows to Yagi and Aizawa as deeply as he can without looking ridiculous. He probably looked a bit ridiculous. Thank you for everything, he says. He doesn't know what else he could say that would ever be adequate. I am honored to have been your hero, my boy, Yagi tells him. Izuku dares to look him right in the eye. You're still my favorite hero! Taken aback by the force behind his words, Yagi laughs before glancing at Todoroki. I do wonder how long that will last. Huh? Izuku starts to ask, but the lights dim again, and they've got to get to their table before they wind up stranded. Izuku sits in his seat numbly. Present Mike has already bounded onto the stage to the podium, but Izuku barely hears what he's shouting. He's still working out what just happened. Even just the fact that he got to talk to All Might is almost too great to comprehend. Never mind the fact that All Might believes in him somehow. Despite everything people have said, despite even what Todoroki has said, Izuku can't quite buy into his own hype. He can acknowledge that he made a difference, and he realizes that he saved Todoroki's life. And the schoolgirl Hana. For that, he's especially grateful. But since then, it's felt like people are trying to insist that Izuku is something he's not. He's never felt like a hero, just a scared boy who stumbled his way into a lucky situation. The most nerve-wracking part of this is that it makes him feel like all Todoroki's reassurances in time and friendship are the result of something with no real basis. When he's at his most anxious, it still makes him feel like he's tricking Todoroki somehow, and that any moment Todoroki will realize it too, and Izuku will no longer be worth his attention. But All Might is the hero, the greatest hero who ever lived. He knows what it means to be one, and Izuku has never doubted him before. There's something in what he said that feels different. Izuku had even talked about it himself when he'd recalled Todoroki shielding them without the quirk to defend himself. It wasn't about the situation or the stakes, but the choice. Are you okay? Izuku jumped slightly, broken out of his daze. He turns to look, and there's Todoroki leaning in close with a frown. It's dark, hopefully too dark to see that Izuku is crying, although Todoroki probably knows, but not quite dark enough that Izuku can't see the concern in his eyes. Light and dark, illuminated by the reflection from the lights on the stage. And suddenly he realizes that Todoroki doesn't just see a kid with skinny wrists and watery eyes and no quirk to speak of, or a fleeting media sensation with nothing else remotely remarkable about him. Todoroki doesn't see everything Izuku isn't or can't be. He sees everything Izuku aspires to be. He sees a hero in him. Todoroki always looks at Izuku as though Izuku is something he's never seen before. Izuku realizes his hands are shaking, adrenaline or nerves or both, and clenches them together in his lap. They're announcing the first award category, Rescue of the Year, already, and Todoroki is supposed to be paying attention to that, not him. I'm okay, Izuku says, smiling at Todoroki to show he means it. He's so okay that it kind of hurts. I'm really good. Todoroki nods and then, tentatively, lowers his hand over both of Izuku's. He does it softly, the warmth of his palm settling in hesitant degrees, like he's afraid if he moves too swift or too sudden, the spell will be broken and Izuku will be gone. Izuku stares down at their hands, too stunned to speak once again. Todoroki's hand is heavy over his, and his fingers are long and slender. He can easily cover both of Izuku's hands with one of his own. He squeezes, and the weight and pressure makes the trembling of Izuku's fingers start to subside. If you're my date, Todoroki murmurs, is it alright to hold your hand? Izuku bites his lip as he feels laughter bubbling up inside him. Jeez, Todoroki, son! He whispers back. I panicked! I know, Todoroki says. You knew I would! I did, I'm sorry. Izuku exhales slowly. He turns his hand upwards so that his palm is pressed to Todoroki's. It's alright with me, if it's alright with you. Todoroki smiles a tiny smile of his own and keeps his hand resting over Izuku's as President Mike checks the results. Rescue of the Year goes to... A pause for dramatic effect. Shouto! The room bursts into applause and Izuku gasps so hard he almost chokes. Ecstatic, he literally pops up onto his feet, wriggling his head free from Todoroki's to clap with everyone else before realizing that Todoroki isn't moving. He seems to just be opting for sitting there looking surprised and mildly baffled. Todoroki-san! Izuku squeals, pulling on his arm to get him to stand. You have to go accept the award! He decides to only say, I told you so in his head, because he's too happy to really try and hold it over Todoroki. He watches Todoroki take the stage, can't help but admire how drop-dead gorgeous he looks under the lights. Truly a job well done, Izuku thinks proudly. If all his accumulation of fanboy knowledge results in nothing beyond that suit, he'll still be happy. Todoroki leans into the mic and clears his throat. Izuku can tell he feels awkward. He's known Todoroki's body language well, even before spending so much time with him in person, but the straight back the way he's standing and emotionless expression give it away immediately. This is really surprising, Todoroki says in his most deadpan voice, and the whole audience laughs. It makes him snort too, and he smiles a bit, reluctantly at first, before his eyes flick over to where Izuku is sitting. Izuku gives him the tiniest of waves and a thumbs up, and Todoroki's shoulders relax a fraction. Actually, I was convinced I wouldn't be winning anything tonight, but then a friend talked some sense into me, so I do have something planned out to say. He clears his throat before continuing. He thanks All Might and his old teachers, the group that works for him and his hero agency, the organizers of the gala and awards ceremony. He thanks Endeavor too, very belatedly. Izuku will ask him later if he really almost forgot or if that was intentional. He mentions how he never really would have been able to anticipate winning something like this during his years at UA, and that he's glad to have been given the opportunity. He's nearing the wrap-up point when he pauses to say one last thing. I realize I've said more than most people have ever heard me talk in one go, so I swear I'm almost done. More laughs from the crowd follow his statement that Todoroki finds Izuku among them one more time. I do need to talk about Midoriya Izuku. Izuku, who has been watching him fondly with his chin propped on his hand, nearly slams his face into the table when his elbow slips off the edge as he startles in surprise. Midoriya, this would have been a posthumous award if you hadn't been there. This startles even more laughs out of everyone as Izuku puts a hand over his face. He cannot believe Todoroki would joke about that now! But you did, and because of that I'm here. And I'm glad that I won tonight so I could prove you right. I can gratefully accept this because of you, and I wanted to win it for you. As a thank you for saving me, and for believing in me since the start. He steps back from the mic and bows as Izuku proceeds to have a mini heart attack. He wants to cover his bright red face, but he also can't take his eyes off Todoroki as the hero jogs down the stairs, probably a little faster than is necessary. Izuku stares at him with wide eyes up until he drops back down into his seat at the table, looking very relieved to have that over with. He looks at Izuku, who instantly looks away with a squeak. Then, worried that that's too rude, he tears his gaze back. Todoroki is watching him. I embarrassed you, Todoroki says very quietly. Yeah! Izuku whispers. I wasn't expecting that! I needed to say it, Todoroki says. I'm not sure that's true, Izuku says, but I still liked your speech. Really? Mm-hmm, Izuku says. He hesitates before turning his hand palm up on his lap. He's not even sure Todoroki is looking. A second later, Todoroki takes his hand again. The awards are extremely fun to watch. Arapati does end up grabbing the award for most popular, while Ground Zero very proudly brings home the high honor of Hero Performance of the Year. Many of Todoroki's classmates are nominated or winners in their categories. Izuku is very satisfied to see most of his predictions for the winners come true. There's also the fact that he gets to hold Todoroki's hand the entire duration of the awards ceremony. He's not sure what he's going to tell his mom after this. Is it really a date then, even if he's the one who accidentally called it that first? Todoroki didn't disagree. Also, he seems to want to hold Izuku's nervous, sweaty hands. Besides being an act of martyrdom in and of itself, that's a whole new level of closeness between them that Todoroki was willing to initiate. Izuku can't really think about these details for too long without feeling like he's going to spontaneously combust, so he tries to focus very hard on the awards being presented. It can't last forever, though, and eventually President Mike is screaming out a last thank you and good night before the lights come back up and the band begins to play again. The audience still lingers to talk and congratulate the winners, and more people come up to chat with Todoroki. Shouto! Zero calls as he sweeps by on his way out. See you at the after party? Maybe, Todoroki says. Oh, come on! After party? Izuku asks, peering at Todoroki curiously. Yeah, my old class has one every year. Todoroki explains. But we don't have to go if that's not— Are you too? Izuku demands. Yeah, I guess we're invited, Todoroki says, blinking at his fervor. Do you want— Izuku grabs his arm. Todoroki-san, your class! You is most promising generation! Okay. Todoroki agrees as Izuku shakes him with a manic passion. Right? I should have expected that, I guess. Yes! Izuku yelps, punching the air in his excitement. This is the best night of my life! The UA class after party is at a fancy hotel nearby, but apparently not heavily publicized or open to press. They've reserved the penthouse for the evening, a beautifully sprawling space that is already rambunctiously loud by the time Todoroki and Izuku turn up. Several people shout out to them when they walk in, drinks raised in greeting. It's a good thing Izuku already met All Might earlier in the evening, because by now his breaking point has been reached. If it hadn't, he thinks the sheer combined presence of the people in this room would have knocked him unconscious. Izuku! And Rebecca calls over the heads of her former classmates. She holds up her statuette, pointing to it animatedly. You were right! Izuku waves back, thrilled to even be acknowledged by anyone. He's barely thought this when a second later someone is slinging an arm over his shoulders affably. Good, you guys win it! Zero says, his grin as wide as ever. Todoroki, you decided not to go old man, huh? Loudly, he whispers to Izuku. When we were still in school, he used to go to bed before 9, like every night. So responsible, Todoroki-san! Izuku exclaims. Zero sighs. Okay, I'm clearly trying to mock you in front of the wrong demographic here. I always come to our class parties, Todoroki says mildly, unbothered by being poked fun at. Yeah, but we weren't sure if you had other plans tonight, obviously, Zero says as Kaminari, joined by the recognizably pink Ashidomina, strolls up to join them. Kaminari wiggles his eyebrows at Izuku. Sorry, Midoriya, we didn't hijack your man, did we? My little what? Izuku stammers. No, I wanted to come too! Oh, he's cute and a party animal! Ashina crows, ignoring the fact that Izuku is clearly anything but. He needs a drink! I'll take that, Todoroki says, intercepting the beer she passes to Izuku, who is still a few months shy of the drinking age. Ashito makes disappointed noises as Todoroki drains half of it in one go. Oh, nobody's gonna care. Let him have some fun. I'm having fun, Izuku reassures her. He really is, and even with Japan's practically non-existent underage drinking regulations, he doesn't want to risk getting Todoroki in trouble for letting him loose on the open bar. Not to mention, Izuku is absolutely sure he'd be an embarrassment if he got drunk surrounded by so many of his idols, so it's probably best to play it safe. Kaminari laughs. You're too good for this guy, Midoriya. Don't let him cramp your style, alright? Oh! Izuku chirps, which makes the other three laugh. We'd all be lost without your guidance, Dunki. Todoroki says dryly. Kaminari flashes them the most exaggerated wink Izuku's ever witnessed before he, Mina, and Zero drift off to chat with some of their other friends. Shouto-kun! Someone calls out excitedly, and more familiar faces hurry to greet them. Two people Izuku recognizes as Todoroki's closest friends from UA, Yaoyorozu Momo and Ida Tenya. For a few moments, Izuku is too starstruck to even introduce himself properly. Like Todoroki, Yaoyorozu and Ida are basically pro-hero royalty. Both of them are as towering as he is and equally as beautiful in their formal wear. Yaoyorozu looks particularly stunning in an intricately designed traditional kimono. Being surrounded by the three of them makes Izuku feel a little bit like a sentient potato, but a very happy potato nonetheless. Ida moves his arms around just as much in real life as he does on TV, and Izuku has a hard time not watching the sharp cuts he makes with his hands as he animatedly congratulates Todoroki on his award. And Midoriya-kun, Ida suddenly blares. I'm delighted to be able to make the acquaintance of one as admirable as yourself. Shouto has spoken very highly of you to us. Me as well, Izuku says, flustered. I mean, I can't believe I get to meet you both. I've always thought you're both incredible heroes, and Todoroki-san has told me so much about you. They both looked extremely touched. We were thrilled when Todoroki-san told us you would be joining him tonight, Yaoyorozu tells him. We've been looking forward to meeting you for so long. Really? Izuku squeaks. He hopes it isn't proving to be a letdown, given he hasn't done much beyond stare at everyone in awe. Oh, yes! Yaoyorozu gushes. It's the first time he's ever been so fond of someone. We wanted to talk to you ourselves, of course, but Ochako already told us girls all about you, so I'm just so happy. That's so nice of her! Izuku practically wails. We all think you two look very cute together. Yaoyorozu says, delicately putting her fingers to her mouth as she smiles. Izuku wheezes. How much wine have you had, Momo? Todoroki asks, and then deftly dodges the swat she aims at his arm. This is my first glass, she says indignantly. You're working faster than me, it looks like. Todoroki's response is a very long and defiant drink from his beer. Unlike most of the discussions he's been dragged into during the gala, Todoroki seems quite content to let his old friends sweep him away into various topics of conversation. They talk about the past year, hero rankings, reminisce on their school days. Izuku hangs on every word, and instead of feeling like an outsider, finds them all eager to share the impressive laundry list of their exploits with him. In fairness, he's a very good audience of one. He's never even heard half these stories, like the quirk apprehension test their very first day of class, or their 2-on-2 hero versus villain fights. Todoroki is also probably the most relaxed Izuku has seen him around other people besides Aiko, and more recently, Izuku himself. Todoroki does still retain an air of respectfulness around the two of them that he drops entirely with his former classmates, likely at his own preservation. They're all ruthlessly over-familiar with him and look for every opportunity to find something to tease him about. It's also probably saying something that he's several beers in. His responses to teasing have become less reserved and more hilarious with every bottle, and his cheeks are a very telling shade of pink. It's kind of unbearably cute, in Izuku's opinion. It's not like that magazine shoot was my first choice, he explains adamantly to Jiro and Tokoyami at one point, who are both sniggering at his attempts. Izuku has never actually seen Tokoyami smile in any picture. It's pretty weird seeing him laugh. Aoyama is persuasive. You know that better than anyone. Yes, Tokoyami admits. But that is also why I always say I'm busy when he starts proposing his schemes of dark design. Dude, no judgment though, Jiro says innocently. It was a good spread. Shut up, Todoroki says, finishing off his beer. I'm serious, Jiro insists. Midoriya agrees with me, right? Oh, Izuku says, trapped unexpectedly. The photo shoot in question had basically been a vanity piece for luxury products, featuring several of the hero world's most eligible bachelors. Todoroki had been very handsome in it, and also very inexplicably shirtless, and Izuku has those pictures burned into his brain at this point. Not a question you have to answer, Todoroki says sagely. No, I think he does, Jiro says, but before Izuku can say anything in response, a new challenger approaches. Oi! The shout is loud and sharp and pretty unmistakable. Izuku freezes, shoulders hunching up around his ears. Todoroki shakes his head. Here we go, he says. Most people in the room literally clear the way as Bakugo Katsuki stomps his way down the center of the room right toward them. His husband follows behind him at a more leisurely pace, in a full red suit no less. Kirishima grabs Kaminari to hug him and fist bumps Zero as he passes with a brilliant grin. Bakugo doesn't say hello to anyone until he reaches Todoroki and Izuku, where he stops in front of them, sizing them up. Yo, Todoroki says. Half and half! Bakugo barks in return. His distinctive glare is absolutely terrifying up close. Without so much as another word between them, the top two pros go from a stare down to grinning at each other like old friends, which of course they are. The fuck is wrong with you? Bakugo asks, like he's asking Todoroki how he's been doing. Trying to get yourself killed abroad without a word to any of us, you damn lunatic? You're right, I should have run it by you first, Todoroki says. Todoroki! Kirishima yells, draping an arm around Todoroki's neck. Neural! You gotta at least be in Japan if you're gonna wind up in the hospital. Don't scare us like that! I wasn't scared, Bakugo says. He's fine, look at him! I was fine, Todoroki confirms as he accepts another beer from Kirishima. Bakugo and Todoroki have one of the most famous public pro rivalries, stemming from their time at UA as two of its strongest students since they both set foot on campus. Their similar attitude problems in the early days only served to cement them as two peas in a pod, regardless of the fact that they tended to be at each other's throats. Though they evened out into something resembling friendship over the years, the undercurrent of competitiveness is never far below the surface with the two of them. "Hang on a sec," Bakugo said, squinting at Izuku. "You're the little shit that did that impression of me, aren't you?" "Oh crap, Izuku had practically forgotten about that." "I might have done that, yeah," he says. "It was on request, though." Bakugo stares at him a moment longer, and Izuku feels himself breaking out into a nervous sweat. Then the explosion hero throws his head back and laughs uproariously. "That was pretty good, kid!" he cackles, jamming a heavy arrow down on Izuku's head to ruffle his hair like a pleased older brother. So much for all the hard work of Izuku's hairstylists. Izuku puts a hand over his racing heart. "Oh, thank God! Wait, you're not mad?" "Nah," Bakugo says. "A true fan should damn well know my catchphrase." "Since when is your catchphrase, die scum?" Todoroki asks. "That's not my catchphrase," Bakugo says, frowning. "His catchphrase is just die, actually," Izuku pipes up. Todoroki stares dully into the distance. "I shouldn't be surprised by this, and yet," Bakugo scoffs. "Quit acting all high and mighty, you're just dramatic." Izuku can't stifle the giggle that escapes him, causing Todoroki to fake glare at him instead. "Sorry." "Don't apologize to this asshole," Bakugo snaps shortly. "You know he's way more trouble than me, right? He tell you about the time he told the chief of police to go fuck himself?" "What?" Izuku gasps. "In language somewhat less uncouth than Bakugo-kun's interpretation," Ida interjects from nearby where he was eavesdropping. "But I can confirm that is true." "There was a slight misunderstanding," Todoroki says. "You tried to fight him!" Bakugo wheezes. Bakugo is unsurprisingly very eager to tell embarrassing stories about Todoroki. It turns out he's heard more about Izuku than he lets on at first, eventually revealing that he knows Izuku went to his old middle school, which leads to the two of them discussing their shared hometown. He's also about as demanding as can be expected and keeps insisting Izuku show him in Hiroshima more hero impressions, which cracks them both up every time, although Bakugo insists that Izuku's impression of him is hands down the best one. It's only when Bakugo asks to see his pro-hero Shouto impersonation that Izuku realizes Todoroki is actually not standing next to him anymore. He looks around, confused, before finally spotting Todoroki sitting on one of the huge sofas, slightly isolated from all the commotion. "I promise I'll show you later," he tells Bakugo, who is becoming slightly belligerent in his now inebriated state. Hiroshima ushers him away laughingly as Izuku makes his way over to where Todoroki is sitting with his head tilted back, eyes closed. He's undone the top button of his suit shirt and his collarbones and the smooth column of his throat are exposed. Izuku swallows. "Hi," he says, and Todoroki opens his eyes to look at him. His gaze is a bit fuzzy, eyes lidded, and Izuku fights back a smile. "Tipsy!" I wanted to sit down for a bit, and it looked like you were fine." Todoroki's shoulders rise and fall in a shrug. "Yeah, I can't believe I got to talk to him for so long," Izuku says giddily. He really can't believe it. Not just because Ground Zero is another of his favorite heroes, but because he's never imagined one of the most intimidating pros would even care to talk to him for more than a few seconds at a time, let alone be interested in an actual conversation. "He's really not as bad as everyone thinks," Todoroki says. "Well, not anymore, anyway. He's another favorite of yours, right?" Izuku nods emphatically, and Todoroki gets a funny look, like he wants to frown and knows he shouldn't. Izuku tilts his head, confused at first, as Todoroki glances away and takes another sip of his beer. "Is everything okay?" "I'm not in danger of slipping to third place on your list, am I?" Todoroki asks, blinking up at him. Third place on his... Oh, wait. Oh my god! Is Todoroki actually... "You won't!" Izuku says. "Of course you aren't! Todoroki-san, you're not... Or are you? Drunk? Definitely at least halfway there. But jealous?" Izuku doesn't think he can actually voice that aloud. The reality of a world in which Todoroki could be jealous of someone else getting Izuku's attention seems so far off that he can't bring himself to imagine it, but... "Sorry," Todoroki says abruptly. "God, that was a really... Never mind. I don't know why I... Want some company while you're over here?" Izuku blurts out. Todoroki's face is considerably redder than before. Is that still just from the alcohol? Yeah, Todoroki says. Please. Izuku smiles. He wonders if he should try to see if Todoroki wants to hold his hand here too, and if that would make him feel better, if there's even something going on at all, or maybe there's too many of his eagle-eyed friends watching. Izuku is pondering this so intently that he doesn't notice there's a tipped-over bottle on the floor next to the couch until he steps on it and his feet fly out from under him. Izuku! He's saved, once again, from an embarrassing fate by Todoroki's reflexes. The pro-hero grabs him before he can tumble over backwards to the floor or crack his head on the coffee table. Before Izuku knows what's happening, he finds himself being hauled into Todoroki's lap, one strong arm wrapped firmly around his body, his back pressed to Todoroki's chest. For a second, he doesn't dare speak. That's the second time today, Todoroki remarks. Izuku can feel the warmth of his breath against his ear. He can't help it. He shivers. Sorry, he whispers. Thanks. He doesn't think they've ever been this close before, not even when this same thing had happened on the plane. God, Todoroki is going to think he's doing this on purpose. He hadn't been holding Izuku quite so firmly then, and Izuku starts to scoot off his lap, face burning in shame, but Todoroki's arm around his waist tightens. Maybe you should stay here, he says, barely a whisper, like he's not sure he should be saying it. Izuku's breath catches in his throat. If you want, it might be safer. Izuku closes his eyes. This is likely the closest he will ever get to heaven, and he is not ready to leave just yet. And so, even though it's horrible of him, because Todoroki has obviously had a bit too much to drink and probably currently doesn't have the best judgment, Izuku says, Okay, I will. He feels, rather than sees, Todoroki nod. If you wanted to go talk to other people, though, that's fine. I'm not. I'd like to stay with you, Izuku tells him. Another nod. Okay. With my second favorite hero. He feels the huff of Todoroki's laugh flutter against the back of his neck. Izuku's chest is tight from how inflated his heart has become. All Might did say that could change, Todoroki reminds him. Izuku has to grin at this. You're welcome to try, Todoroki-san. So quietly, Izuku almost doesn't hear him. Todoroki murmurs, Maybe I have been trying. Izuku doesn't get a chance to respond. They are waylaid by more of Todoroki's friends shortly thereafter, and Izuku scrambles off his lap to save him any unnecessary embarrassment, almost. They didn't see Hagakure coming, and she tells everyone how they were sitting before more people showed up. He still spends the rest of the party sitting pressed up against Todoroki's side, with Todoroki's arm draped over the back of the couch behind him. Todoroki doesn't seem to be the least bit bothered with subtlety, and Izuku is left to replay his words over and over in his head. All Might himself has already called him a hero that night. Maybe there are other impossible things that might not be as far out of reach as he thought. The after party doesn't wind down until late. It's nearly 3 a.m. when they finally get back to their hotel. Izuku is exhausted, worn out from excitement and more interaction over the course of one evening than he's probably ever had before in his life, all with a group of people so much larger than life they're literally on billboards all across his city. He's grown up hoping to get so much as an autograph from any of them. Tonight, he got phone numbers, and more than that, he got to know them a little bit. The old saying warns against meeting your heroes, but he's more than glad that he did. He walks down the hallway of the hotel side by side with Todoroki, footsteps swallowed up by the plush carpet beneath their feet. Todoroki is quiet next to him, and Izuku feels overly aware of how close they're standing, their hands by their sides almost touching, but not quite. Todoroki-san, he says, did you enjoy yourself tonight? Me? Todoroki glances at him. Shouldn't I be the one asking you that? I feel like maybe the pressure is more on you, Izuku says. We both knew I'd have fun. Does that mean you did then? Yes, Izuku says. Of course, this was amazing. Todoroki looks pleased. Good. That doesn't answer my question, though, Izuku wheedles. Todoroki doesn't respond for a few seconds. Finally, he says, I wasn't sure if I should invite you to the gala or not. The admission comes as suddenly as a slap. Oh, Izuku says, the happy bubble in his chest deflating. He trips over his next words as old doubt surges back in. Oh, I hope you didn't feel like you had to, or like you were pressured in any way, or... No, I've just never asked anyone to an event before, Todoroki explains. I wasn't sure what you'd think. Honestly, I wasn't really sure what I was thinking either. I just wanted... They reached the door to Izuku's room, and Todoroki trails off as they stop in front of it. Wanted what? Izuku asks. His throat is tight. He's not sure what to feel. Everything had seemed like it was going so great. Too good to be true. Had Todoroki just been humoring him all this time? Had he just felt bad for Izuku? Todoroki pauses. He rests his fist on the wall and then thumps it a few times, seemingly for good measure, before looking up at Izuku again. The cloudiness has disappeared from his expression. Any lingering effects from the alcohol appeared to have worn off. I just wanted to be around you more, he says. First the interview, then at the agency, then just talking to you over the phone every time. I just didn't want any of them to be the last time. What? Oh! Izuku whispers. I knew inviting you to this would be a lot, Todoroki confesses. I didn't know if this was too much or what would happen after. You already said it's been the best night of your life, so I know I can't top this. Wait, Izuku says. Was the gala to try and impress me? No, Izuku says, his eyes running a hand over his face. I'm bad at this. I don't know what else to offer beyond this. You like hero stuff, and this was a lot of hero stuff. Todoroki-san! Izuku says, shocked. You know I don't just like you because you're a pro, right? That's the entire reason you like me, actually, Izuku points out, sounding very stressed. It is not, Izuku says. I know about you because you're a hero. I like you because of everything else about you. What, did you think I was just going to lose interest once we ran out of hero stuff to do? He stares Todoroki down, daring him to argue. No, Todoroki says hurriedly. I know you're not like that. You don't expect anything, but you should. You deserve this much. Izuku hides his face in the crook of his elbow. You're being ridiculous! What's ridiculous is that you think I'm amazing, Todoroki says. But I can't even... I've been trying to tell you to make you realize that God damn it! He runs a hand through his carefully styled hair in frustration, mussing it up hopelessly as Izuku watches stunned. I want to do all of this for you, but I can't even come up with something better than an agency tour and a free ticket I never would have even used otherwise to some party. Todoroki! Izuku yelps, cutting him off very rudely, but Izuku doesn't care at the moment. Just tell me, did you enjoy tonight or not? Yes, Todoroki says. So did I, Izuku tells him again. I mean, yes, tonight was the best night of my life. How could it not be? But not just because of all the hero stuff. It's mainly because I had a lot of fun with you. And if you somehow think that's not good enough for me, you are an idiot. Todoroki's eyes are very wide. Yeah? Yeah, Izuku says. I like you a lot, Todoroki-san. Okay, Todoroki says. Right, okay. I like you a lot is the biggest understatement ever made, perhaps an outright lie at this point. Izuku's heart is so full of fondness, and maybe something more that he keeps dodging because it doesn't yet feel like it can be real, that it's threatening to hammer out of his chest. He has to do something about it or it's going to explode, messy and rose-colored, all over the immaculate hotel hallway. He leans up onto his tiptoes, but he's still not quite tall enough, so he has to grab the lapels of Todoroki's jacket and tug him down a few inches. Briefly, trying not to think too much about it, he presses his mouth against Todoroki's in the quickest, softest kiss. It's the first one he's ever given anyone. Good night, Todoroki-san, he whispers. Thank you for everything. Rapidly, he lets himself into his room, bowing to Todoroki's feet. Izuku doesn't dare look at his face as he closes the door behind him. He leans back against it and stares up at the ceiling and then squeezes his eyes shut. He did that. He just did that. What did he just do? Knock, knock, knock. The sound makes him leap away from the door. Oh no! He stares at the glossy wood until the knot comes back light and frantic, and it seems like he has no choice but to face fate. With a trembling hand, he reaches out and opens the door again, eyes still downcast. I'm sorry. That's all he gets out. The door is flung wide open. Todoroki takes one step forward, and then two big hands are cupping Izuku's cheeks to tilt his face up. Warm lips are finding his, and Todoroki is kissing him in earnest. His body pressed flush up against Izuku's own. Izuku. The way he says Izuku's name against his lips is all kinds of wrong, and the sound of it makes Izuku sob, a wordless gasp of pent-up longing and adoration all flooding out of him at once, and he's shaking, and his legs don't seem to be able to support him, and he's flinging his arms as tight as he can around Todoroki's neck as his hero in all things picks him up and carries him into the moonlit room beyond, kicking the door shut behind them so they can finally have each other. The last chapter of this story is basically one giant steamy part, so I will be recording that for members only. Thank you for listening to all my general subscribers and listeners.